Well, everybody, it's over. Season 4 in the Denver Broncos franchise is now in the books. We can look ahead to Season 5. But not before we recap this past season. I'll try to not go into too much detail because, like Season 3, this was a season that was kinda bad from end to end. We had a lot of bad losses, and we simply weren't a very good football team. I almost convinced myself we were when Donovan Jennings went off in his first two starts against Kansas City. 21-20, barely beat the Chiefs here in this first game, and Jennings gave us 92 yards and helped us seal the game at the end. That game showed some potential, and the following game against Kansas City really showed what Donovan Jennings was all about. Even though Mahomes had 3 touchdowns, 300 yards, Donovan Jennings led us to victory with 140 yards and 3 touchdowns. This season didn't have a lot of success stories, but Donovan Jennings was certainly one of them. Unfortunately, he got injured shortly after this stretch of games and returned late in the year, where he did help us get a couple more victories and had another big game here against the Raiders, 163 yards and a touchdown. He's one player we're counting on moving forward. We ended this season going 5-11, and every one of those victories was in division, meaning we went 5-1 in division. You know what kind of teams go 5-1 in division? Number 1 seeds. Well, we failed to win any other game, period. So, we're picking top 5 instead. When you look at our 11 losses, 8 of those were by double digits or more, meaning that even if we won all of our close games this season under 1 score, we would have been an 8-8 team had we been perfect in those games. Obviously, the defense took a major step back this season, and they didn't wait around a long time to show us they had regressed significantly. We gave up nearly 100 yards and a touchdown to Todd Gurley in week 1, while Jared Goff shredded our secondary from the very beginning of the game. Rookie Dallas Levine had a big day against us, and this trend repeated itself throughout the season, whether it was big rushing outputs like Nick Chubb had in the Browns game, or it was the many big passing outputs that happened against our defense. Our pass rush took a step back, and our secondary regressed. And because it wasn't very good, I decided that we were just going to trade Chris Harris because I could see where this team was going, and I wanted to instead work toward our future instead of thinking we could turn things around in the present. That helped us get an extra second-round pick, and Tennessee almost made the postseason after making that upgrade, but thankfully now they gave us another top 50 pick. We currently have 5 selections in the upcoming draft that are in the top 100. This needs to be an impactful draft to shore up holes on the roster. Of course, this season we again had a quarterback change that has happened every year in the series. Taquan Layton's first year starting was not a very good one. I knew he'd be a quarterback we had to develop, but there were more issues this year we had to deal with than I expected. I think in some games Layton's accuracy was an issue, but early in the year I didn't think that was the case. When it comes to his rushing upside, we got some big plays from him and some good play outside the pocket. Maybe I have to use that scramble feature a bit more. I don't want to actually use a lot of jukes and spins because fumbles are so common, but it's so hard to change direction and get up to full speed scrambling in this game. Maybe it's because I don't hit L2 all the time, but even when I was doing that, I didn't feel a significant change, so I'll practice that in the off season. And another thing with Layton that I believe we learned is that he has a very slow release. And I'm not going to go into the game and change around animations and stuff like that, especially here in these custom classes like Blackjack. And he gives them strengths and weaknesses, and sometimes that has to do with a release. I don't know if generic 3 is just, one of these slower releases in the game, but I think when we saw Phillip Rivers play the last couple of games of the year, he gets the ball out faster. I'm not sure if it has to do with the throw power of Layton, which did get better throughout the year through some upgrades. Now, his superstar dev played a major role in why he started this season, but we did get unlucky with the archetypes. the accuracies did not increase like I thought they would this year. Overall this season, Leighton got better by 2 overall points. His throw power went up by 1. His deep accuracy went up by 2. His medium accuracy went up by 3, and his short accuracy just 1. He only got a couple of upgrades this year, and without putting up any big games, never being player of the week, only having a handful of touchdowns, that was just the way it's gonna be. Overall, the offensive line was not that good. We gave up a ton of sacks yet again. We actually played our best pass pro in the last game of the year. We only allowed 2 sacks in that game. And the main difference was that I played Marvin Walsh at right guard, and Mac Hillhouse at right tackle. And Hillhouse this year was by far our best offensive lineman. I do not know why, but that was indeed the case. Hillhouse was much better than Trent Williams. And I think next year, one change I want to make is to play Hillhouse at right tackle. I don't really care about which side is the blind side or whatever. What I want to see is more stability along that right side. And when I escape the pocket with Leighton, it's going to be to the right most often. He's a right-handed quarterback, so that gives him an option to throw. So I think Hillhouse will be permanently a right tackle going forward. Now, I know that at the end of the year, with the way Phillip Rivers played, and even Hudson Brooks at the end of the year in that second half, now a lot of people don't think that Taquan Leighton is the answer on this team. I do want to stick with him going forward, but I think I have to take that quarterback 2 role very seriously. Now, what really made me think about this quarterback situation wasn't exactly how Rivers played. It was when I checked his ratings after the way he played, and I saw that there's nothing outstanding here. His deep accuracy is good, but we weren't throwing that deep most of the time. He was just accurate. I don't know why he was so good the last 2 games of the year, while Leighton struggled before his injury in Game 15. But I think regardless, Leighton was not spectacular this year. I can play better with him, but I think as far as a QB2 goes, I need a better backup. Hudson Brooks, I think, is a career backup quarterback. I think that his arm is very weak, and it's going to take a long time before most of these ratings get to starting caliber anyway. So, with that being said, I want to look for another QB2 this year that is hopefully even better than Phillip Rivers, and if Leighton doesn't play well, is somebody that I can rely on starting. I want this to be a team that runs the football often and well, and Marion Peppers and Donovan Jennings, I believe, are the 2 backs that are going to get this done for us going forward. Donovan Jennings was not a popular pick at the time I selected him, but now by the end of the year, he's a very popular pick. He averaged 6 yards a carry, had 5 touchdowns, and had a number of big plays. Here's a look at how many games he gave us a 50-yard run in 3 games, and he didn't play that many. Meanwhile, Marion Peppers took advantage of the time when Jennings was out, and I enjoyed running the football with him. I think he's a solid back. He catches the football pretty well. He doesn't drop the football often, if ever. And I think these 2 are going to be the tandem we can build this running game around. Peppers does not give us a lot of big plays, but he gives us a lot of solid ones. Next year, I hope to do even more with Leighton as a runner. 435 yards, 2 touchdowns is okay. The fumbles got to come down. You just can't really get away with taking contact with your quarterback in this game. You've got to get out of bounds or slide or something. So I'll keep that in mind, but I want to run with him more next year. For Marcus Green, he didn't play a ton this season. I'm not necessarily sure I'll bring him back unless he signs a fully non-guaranteed deal. He doesn't really have a lot of creation skills beyond his speed, so I want to bring in another running back for competition. Also this offseason, I'm either going to trade or release Royce Freeman. We'll see if we get a 7th or 6th round pick for him or something, maybe even better because of his overall, but I think we have found out by now that Royce Freeman doesn't have a role on this team and did not play well this season at all. Alright, for pass catcher, we have a lot of players here that I've been playing over the years. Now, Curtis Samuel got hurt early in the season. He only played a fraction of the year, and we didn't really get him involved like I wanted to when he was healthy. His yardage per game went down, no touchdowns. If we take a look at snap counts, he and Noah Fant combined for 1,500 snaps and 1 touchdown, and I really don't like that. I wanted to involve Fant. It's just I could not find ways to scheme him open going vertical, which was so weird. He was far more productive in year 3, 2 yards a catch greater. The rack was similar, so it's simply that last year he had more air yards. This year was a lot more dependent on just short throws, and I don't want that. He's much more talented than that usage. He should be getting catches downfield more often. But of course this year it was very tough for us to go downfield with the pass protection and Leighton's arm. Now, Centarius Phillips. We traded for him. I thought he was solid this year. I thought he gave us maybe even a slightly higher level of play than Cortland Sutton, but very similar regardless. And Phillips offers a lot more speed. I'd love to use him more as a deep threat, but as we saw in Game 15, Leighton's arm doesn't always allow for that. His deep accuracy is still very low. All right, Deion Price. Now, he probably didn't play as much as he should have this year. He still played 540 snaps. He did play a lot more than Starkey, for what it's worth. But this year, Price's usage did change. He was more of a downfield receiver than an underneath receiver. You'll notice here, on less catches, less yards, he had a lot more yards after the catch. I think next year I have to do a better job of blending these two roles together. The problem for him this year was just that Starkey was awesome in the preseason. He is a better route runner, and I thought he was reliable for the most part in the regular season. There was one game I know where he dropped the ball a couple times and I benched him, but Starkey ended up making a fair amount of plays for us this season in the slot, and he should be on the roster going forward. Hakeem Butler, he stepped up when Samuel went down. He has a very different skill set, but at the same time, I wonder if I should have played Price more in that role because I like to use Samuel as a deep threat, whether it's to actually get targeted or to loosen up the secondary a bit and make them respect that speed. Butler doesn't have that speed, but he does have the best catching traffic ability on the team, and that was on display throughout the year. And it's important because he doesn't create a lot of separation. He's not that fast. His route running is only okay. So I think that while I signed him to a 2-year deal, he's going to have to get a little bit better to get more playing time. I have to improve that route running, I think, so that he can be a high-impact receiver. But in preseason next year, I plan to give him some chances to stretch the field a bit and see if that release and catching traffic can show up. I wanted to pass to our backs a bit more. I always just find, though, whenever I'm calling plays and then running them, I don't like the check down routes and stuff in Madden. I just don't usually find myself throwing to the backs very much because they seem to always have no room to do anything. But against certain defenses that call a ton of cover 2, I know that I can just call those manual, like running back curls, and they'll be open quite a bit. There was also one game this year where Peppers had 11 catches because they basically gave up on doing anything else in that game. 11 catches, 83 yards. Jake Butt, it seemed in the second half of the year, every week he gave us one really good play a week. He'll stay on the team. I think he's a solid tight end too. Kari Bigby is probably going to be traded or released after this year. I just don't see us getting him on the field a ton, and we have a lot of other players that I'd rather play over him. So I don't think Bigby's on the roster next year. Arsenio Choice, I don't know about him either. I think we have enough competition here. Plus, if there's a chance to go get an elite wide receiver, I'm going to try and make it happen. And it looks like DeAndre Hopkins will be available in the offseason, so we'll see what we can do. For the offensive line, the right side, that was such a tough situation with Trent Williams not having a great year. Jawan James, I think he played worse even if the sack numbers are one less. Norman Proctor, I don't know exactly how this works, but we always have these like split double teams. Madden doesn't have the double teams very well created in this game. They get split so often. I think Proctor got the blame for like every double team split sack, because I don't think Muldrow only allowed 2. But I do think Muldrow was better, and I love that I traded for him. Muldrow helped us out in the running game, and I think that our left side was really solid. Now I'm going to change things up next year. I'm moving Mac Hillhouse to the right side. Another thing too, just about the way I play the game, is I like to run left more than I like to run right. I'm just more comfortable with the angles, and it also sets us up more often on the left hash, and I'd rather be on the left hash because of just the way I like to design my passing game as well. So Hillhouse, who is not a great run blocker, is going to line up on the right side this next year. Marvin Walsh, I didn't think he played well early in the year. That's why we traded for Muldrow. So I don't see him as a starter next year. For the defense, we took a major step back with the pass rush this year. That's not the case for Boogie Turner. Bradley Chubb also had 9.5 sacks, but Von Miller was no longer elite this season. By far the worst year of his career. I thought Miller was a better run defender this season. I can't explain why the sack production went down the way that it did, but with him being a free agent, I'm not sure he's going to come back next year. I might try to make something happen, but for 15-20 million a season, I'm probably going to see what else I can do with that cap space. I felt like Damian Charles got pretty good toward the end of the year. He had some interceptions and more pass breakups than other cornerbacks on the team. So I do trust him as the #1 corner going forward. But if there's a chance to go and get a high-level corner this offseason, I have to do it. I really want to have a strong secondary again. Justin Simmons, I did sign him to an extension. However, I think that he's still close to replacement level, just given the fact that his age is getting up there, his speed isn't like phenomenal. I just think he is a solid safety for us in this series. Miles Jack, I think, is still a great inside linebacker. Our run defense got pretty good toward the end of the year. Jack was making a lot of plays. He's just a phenomenal all-around player. I can't imagine this defense throughout the series if we never made the move to get him. I think Christian Baxter is a solid player. This year, I think, exposed that he's not as good in coverage as I thought he was, but his run defense has gotten good. And it wasn't very strong when his career began, so he's shown a lot of improvement there. Will Parks, he regressed this year. He gave up so many highlight plays. He will not be a starter next season. Eric McKinney, I wasn't all that impressed with him in coverage. I'd like to see him make more plays with his speed and zone coverage ability. He'll get another chance next year, but I hope to see a good jump with him. Xavier Watts, I played him at corner just to get some experience. I didn't want him to be on the bench all season long, and he got some upgrades, so it was definitely worth it, but his strong position is going to be at safety. Next year, I expect him to be a starter. I don't know if it's going to be at free safety or strong safety, but we have to keep in mind, we have an elite safety class this year. Damon Harrison, I thought he did a pretty good job against the run, some good tackles for loss that stand out, and overall I think he was solid. As far as our depth goes, nobody really impressed me all that much except for Andrew Ramsey. He had 6 pass breakups, an interception, and could have had even more, and he only played 149 snaps. I want to say the reason that he played so well might be a pretty good awareness rating for his overall, because his zone coverage isn't great or anything, but he made plays, and regardless of rating, when a player keeps making plays, I simply play him. I'm just seeing this for the first time now, but our offense actually did score less points than in year 3. That was not the case for much of the season, but we ended up 31 offensive touchdowns. Last season in the series, we had 33. We were also within 100 yards of our total offensive yardage from last year. So the offense really didn't get a lot worse, but the defense definitely did. Turnover differential was a big problem, especially in year 3, and this year, it wasn't great. We gave up the football 34 times last year and 33 this season. Now the defense. They fell so far. We almost got out of last place here for points allowed, but obviously couldn't. We had 38 sacks this year, which is above average, but you can't watch our games from last year and say we had a good pass rush. A lot of those were just like play action or rolling into pressure or coverage sacks. Our pass rush did not have a great impact on games. For third down, we were among the worst. We got into too many bad third down scenarios this year and did not have a good way of fixing that issue. For red zone, I know our red zone offense was not spectacular. We settled for a lot of field goals. Alright, let's go to league leaders now. We all know that we don't have any on our team, but around the league there were a lot of players that took a big step forward. Baker Mayfield had a successful year with the Bengals. Patrick Mahomes, good numbers, but another failed season for Kansas City. Jesse Heikkinen, here he goes up to 37 touchdowns. He's been solid his first 3 years. He was only sacked 11 times this year. Wow. Ezekiel Elliott gets the rushing title for this season. Here were all the 1,000-yard backs. Many of them got there partially because they played against our defense when we were struggling there. Jarquez Towns, 800-plus yards. For receiving, Tyler Boyd gets the most yards, and Dede Westbrook, 18 touchdowns. I'm pretty sure Dede's going to be an X factor next season. He's not going to be a free agent. I took a look at that just in case. But Dede Westbrook had 18 touchdowns, many 2-touchdown games. One player who also had a really good year for Green Bay is Marcus Duhan as their second wideout, and I wonder if he'll get a good dev increase. Fantastic route runner, just 77 overall, still young. LaMarcus Sampson almost had 1,000 yards this year. For defense, how about interceptions first? 6 for Justin Lane and Trey Flowers. And for the pass rush in the AFC, Boogie Turner, 13 sacks. I know we can build around Boogie on defense. Aaron Donald for the NFC. I have not checked the awards yet. What do we have here? The MVP for this year is Russell Wilson after the Seahawks went 11-5. Brian Flores, Coach of the Year with Miami. And the AFC awards, Baker Mayfield, Offensive Player of the Year. Tremaine Edmonds, Defensive Player of the Year. I'm going to have to check out Marion Triplett though because he was number 5. Offensive Rookie of the Year goes to Tony McAdams. If Donovan Jennings had started all season, I think he could have gotten there. Wow. But Tony McAdams, quarterback of the Steelers, wins it. Defensive Rookie of the Year! There we go! Boogie Turner, 13 sacks. I was pretty sure he'd win it. Best quarterback, Baker Mayfield. Running back, Nick Chubb. Tyler Boyd at receiver. David DeCastro, Myles Garrett, Tremaine Edmonds, Justin Lane, Brandon McManus. And in the NFC, Russell Wilson, Khalil Mack, Brandon Warren, Offensive Rookie of the Year, ahead of college teammate Marty Belafonte. We will check out a lot of these standout rookies. Defensive Rookie of the Year is Jacoby Demps. Best quarterback, Russell Wilson. This season, Marion Triplett finally became a starter. He had 86 tackles, 19 for a loss, and 7.5 sacks. Not bad. Brandon Warren had 23 touchdown passes, 4 interceptions, and 223 yards rushing. Not much there. But the Vikings had their first successful season here in the series. Brandon Warren takes them to the postseason in just year 1 And Emmanuel Silvers, he played a little bit down the stretch and had 326 yards. Drew Lock is still starting for the Chicago Bears. He is up to a 75 overall with star development now, and the Bears have even signed him to a large contract, which tells me they're going to stick with him going forward. Hayden Jean-Charles, I think his production went down here in Season 2 for him, and it certainly did. He had more touchdowns, still good production though in his second year. For Tampa Bay, Adric Young has played a couple years in the series, and he posted 732 yards this year, almost 15 yards a reception. Very productive here in the Tampa offense. Jamie Sherman might have been Rookie of the Year if he didn't get hurt toward the end. The Chargers were already strong at wide receiver, and Jamie Sherman may prove to be the best receiver on this team going forward. Josh Rosen, he did not have a phenomenal year this year with the Lions, but he's going to be their quarterback, it seems, going into the future. Now, the Lions pick number 1, so we'll find out. Do they take Tyson Walker, or are they actually going to stick with Josh Rosen? Terrell Corville, by the way, did not have a huge year. He played a lot of snaps. 8.1 yards a catch is extremely low. That's surprising to see his production take such a hit in year 2. The Panthers have spent 2 early picks in recent drafts on Cliff McKeon and Jason Burgess, and it seems they have a really good trio of wide receivers here for Cam Newton. And of course, we have the postseason, and if we get a good Super Bowl matchup, I may have to stream it. If the Dolphins are in it, if the Vikings or Chargers are in it, then I think I'd want to watch it. Maybe the Saints too for Justin Colbert. But here are all the playoff teams for this year. The Chargers took a major step forward, the Dolphins get back to the postseason, while we're going to be selecting top 5. Here are the results from the first round of the postseason. Brandon Warren's first career playoff game is a loss to the Green Bay Packers. It was still a great year for Minnesota. They're not going to pick top 5 this year or anything, but they go one and done, losing to their greatest rivals. This Green Bay offense is pretty strong, especially with Duhan's development that has kind of come out of nowhere. Duhan actually outgained Devontae Adams this year. They were both over 1,000 yards. Baltimore over Indianapolis. Lamar Jackson leads the Ravens to victory despite 3 Andrew Luck touchdowns and 347 yards passing. Saints and Panthers, and Justin Colbert is not able to get the playoff victory. The Panthers are moving on. 2 touchdowns for Colbert, 2 touchdowns for Cam Newton. A big day for Christian McCaffrey. Michael Thomas had a good game, but the Saints go one and done. And finally, our rivals, the Chargers, they are not able to defeat Pittsburgh. Now, they did not have 2 players in this game, Keenan Allen or Derwin James. Pretty important players to miss here in the postseason. Tony McAdams, Rookie of the Year, 3 touchdowns. Nothing special here on the ground. 3 touchdowns for Marquise Lee. Jamie Sherman returned, did not have a huge impact on the game. Mike Williams had a pretty good day. In the second round, Pittsburgh victorious again. Now they knock out the Dolphins and Jesse Heikkinen. Tony McAdams, the rookie, has the Steelers in the AFC Championship. Wow, I did not expect Miami to go one and done. I thought they might be a Super Bowl team this year. Dallas defeats Green Bay. I didn't expect that either. I thought Green Bay's offense would be too much, but 3 interceptions of Aaron Rodgers, that'll get it done. And some good rushing for Ezekiel Elliott. Interceptions went to Anthony Brown and Justin Evans. Cincinnati 31, Baltimore 13. Baker Mayfield and the Bengals are moving on to the AFC title game. And finally, Carolina over Seattle 28-14. Cam Newton and this impressive Panther offense continue their run. Whoa, the Bengals win 38-7 over Pittsburgh. Just a dominant win. Pittsburgh under 200 yards of offense, only 1 touchdown. This Bengals team got a lot better in one offseason. And the Bengals are going to be meeting the Cowboys, who won a close game against the Carolina Panthers. They win 28-27. Wow. Just a 1-point finish here. It is Bengals and Cowboys then in the Super Bowl. Not a matchup that I think I specifically want to watch. Anyway, here are the Pro Bowlers, and 3 of the 6 are young quarterbacks in this series. Heikkinen, Oliver Raymond, and Brandon Warren, all in the Pro Bowl already. Now at running back, there aren't too many running backs from the series that are drafted and are in big roles. Like Donovan Jennings and Marion Peppers are 2 of the highest volume running backs. Sharquez Towns gets a lot of carries, but he hasn't done a ton with them yet. For receiver, we see Marcus Duhan. Andy Isabella has developed well for Arizona in this series. Kittle, Kelsey, Hayden Jean-Charles. I'd love to see Matt Kilhouse make it here. I do think he's a Pro Bowl player, but none for us. Boogie Turner makes it to the Pro Bowl. I think we already knew that, though. Marion Triplett. Love seeing that. Darius Leonard, Devondre Campbell, Justin Lane, Juan Thornhill, and there are your Pro Bowlers, including Marty Belafonte and Deion Price. All right, this year is Super Bowl 57, Bengals and Cowboys. I don't know if I'll stream this one, but it would be fun. We'll see. If it were like the Dolphins or the Chargers in there, I think I'd want to stream it a bit more. But from here, we can check out any dev increases and any unlocks. And now we know Donovan Jennings has star development. He had hidden for all season, and now we know it to be star. Phillips is still star. Price is normal. Not seeing anything out of the ordinary on offense. And for defense, still star for a lot of players. McKinney, superstar. Allison, star. Nothing here has changed. Oliver Raymond, he's now a superstar quarterback, no longer just star. I wonder if that short accuracy is going to get any better, though. I don't think it has since he was drafted. D.D. Westbrook, indeed, superstar X Factor. I'm guessing Tyler Boyd has X Factor? Nope, just superstar. He was wide receiver of the year, of course, over Westbrook. How about Tyler Lockett? Star. Let's go and sort by touchdowns here. Willie Snead might be superstar. He definitely is. Wow. That's pretty good. How about Jamison Crowder? Superstar for him. Andy Isabella, I think, was star, and now he has superstar dev. Justin Lane. Wow, he's still normal dev? Okay. It might work out differently for corners, but he had like those awards, 6 picks. You'd think he'd at least be star right now. I also wonder why Miles Jack at inside linebacker isn't superstar yet. I guess at inside linebacker here, interceptions, tackles for loss, tackles. Jack does all those things, but I guess like Tremaine Edmonds has more sacks. I don't know. For corners, it's looking at deflections and tackles. Deflections over interceptions. Wow. All right, well, that does it for that recap. I think we still have to talk a little bit about scouting this year. This draft class has a lot of phenomenal talent at the very top. And I know the quarterback position's going to be a question. I do not see us drafting a quarterback early. If Tyson Walker were to somehow fall to our pick, I might take him. But I don't think he makes it past the Patriots. I don't think there's a single chance he makes it past New England. So I think that we're going to look for some backups. We have a couple options down in the late rounds, but I think if I want someone that can actually have a chance to start early in their career, I have to either make a trade or find a quarterback that's going to be available in free agency. And after going through the rosters so far, I have not found a great quarterback I expect to be available like Baker was last year. Looking at the top 5, there are so many different directions that we can go in this draft. And there are some great safeties that may be available when we pick. Hard to say who's going to go in the top 5 besides Tyson Walker, but I expect at least one of these safeties go before we pick. There's Jamari Akinjide. Great man coverage, great tackler, early first round safety. That would be one way to rebuild the defense a bit. Next year, I think we're going to have Justin Simmons and Xavier Watts start. At least that's how the roster is right now, but neither are high quality safeties in this series, so I shouldn't ignore the position. But there are other options. I don't think Jaquel Okogie is going to be one of them for us. I think that the mid-first round talent is just not good enough for us to take at number 5. When we could go with a great safety prospect. There's Jamie Alexander as well, who has a ton of range. Then there's Kazimir Sokolov here at edge rusher. If we want to replace Von Miller, that's one way we could go. And there's also offensive linemen. Gabe Davis, left tackle. Great run block power, great overall run blocker. Andrew Talley from Florida, another very good run blocker. No matter what, there will be a great player for us when we're on the clock. But when you're comparing like Akinjide to Gabe Davis to Sokolov to Alexander, it's tough because these are all early first round players. And right now, what I'm thinking is I'd like to upgrade the offensive line. I'd love to do that, but I'd have to not take a great defensive player here, which is also tough. I am also willing to give up future picks to get the right player. So I think there's a very good chance we're trying to move up from our second round pick back into the first round. But again, it has to be for the right player. It might be at secondary. Shabazz Sherwood would definitely fit what I want to do. I've talked about this year how much I like Tommy Jordan. He has hybrid skills. I think he could play corner or safety. That was what I thought of him when we had him in the Kalispell series. You have to kind of look at the draft in terms of groups. So if we take safety at the top, obviously, that means we're trying to address offensive line later on. How does that look if we have to go for a mid-first round player or an early second round player? I think then it looks like a situation where you have Jamari Akinjide and maybe Brian Johnson, who's 23, late first talent, not quite as good as those top prospects. Or you take offensive linemen early and then come back up for a player like Tommy Jordan. There are some good blockers, though, in this class in the early rounds, and I have no doubt that offensive line will be one of our first 2 picks. There are some good pass rushers in this class. If we don't go for one early, we can always try to get someone like Patrick Reed a little bit later. Great size with great finesse move. Very intrigued by him. I know the secondary is going to be a key spot to look at. There's Okogie, Sherwood. There's Juno Springs in the second round. Not sure he would be a great fit for us currently. Steven Walker, good zone coverage. Lauren Moore, Jeff Stiegel, good man coverage, but it's hard to play man coverage in Madden because it just doesn't work properly, especially off man. When I saw this draft class for the first time, I did not think we would be among the teams selecting from these elite players, so this is a pick we absolutely have to nail. I don't think I'll go wide receiver in this class. Maybe later on if there's a great route runner, but I think if we're going to add a receiver to the mix, it has to be someone who is already a high quality starter, not someone who has that potential, because we already have like 6 receivers that are pretty young with potential to get better. But maybe later on, if we can hit some of our needs, we can select someone like Javi Cortez Phillips, although 26 years old. Blackjack edited him to have 26 as his age, so doesn't give him a lot of time to get a whole lot better, but he does have that route running upside that I like. You can let me know your favorite prospects down below in the comment section. How can we make this roster better for next year? How do we upgrade the defense? And how do we upgrade the offensive line? That is going to do it for the recap, everybody. I can't wait to get to year 5 and hopefully put a few more wins on the board. It's a very important offseason, though, and I hope that we can make it a successful one. I'll see you all Saturday for the offseason stream, 2 o'clock p.m. Central Time. It should be a great time. Please leave a like on the video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you all again soon. Have a great day.